also hoping the people in the back will finish their conversation. All right, can I have your attention, please? Okay, folks, if I can have your attention, please. There are a bunch of people, we hope, online who are watching this, along with this august group of people here. I am delighted to welcome you all to the Wedge, to the second biannual Night at the Museum of the Southern Appalachian Paddlesports Museum. Thanks for coming. For those of you online, Mark Hunt asked me to apologize in advance if we foul this up or if it isn't perfect, because we're not veterans and experts at this online streaming business. But Mark, I believe, is an expert at just about anything, so he's got it figured out. So, my name's John Burton. I've been involved in the Paddling Museum since Mike Fischesser threw me under that bus about 3 years ago. And I just wanted to welcome you all, and welcome those of you who might be watching remotely. How did all this come about? What is the Paddling Museum? How did it start? It is the exclusive province of the active mind and imagination of a fellow named Mike Fischesser. Mike Fischesser is on the balcony up top. Are you not, Mike? Are you up there? There he is. Let's give him a round of applause. Mike has been involved in the Carolina Climbing Museum, which is at Black Dome Mountain Sports, for many years. He and I first met in the early 1970s when I was in NOC and he was at Outward Bound. And Mike has an active imagination and is willing to recruit anybody he can find to do his ideas. He's had at least 3 terrific ideas throughout his career. He was the director of the Outward Bound School. We're in NOC and the Outward Bound School work together for paddling programs. That's most of us met Mike. Okay. He is also, this is, from Car Talk. Remember they have the Shameless Commerce Division? This is the Shameless Commerce Division of Beanstalk Journeys. Mike has founded and still runs a fabulous company that builds zip lines and adventures in the trees and playgrounds that are the most creative, beautiful things you've ever seen. So, beanstalkjourneys.com, I think, would be the place to go. If you have a need for anything like that, I would recommend you use Beanstalk. But the third thing that Mike does that most of us who are his friends are most proud of is something called TASK, the American Adventure Service Corps. Mike put TASK together 25 or 28 years ago. Has put thousands of young people through adventurous learning and adventurous trips, most often into the Northwest Territories of Canada and Alaska, and has changed thousands of lives. So I'd like to give Mike a nice round. And Mike, we're not done with you yet, so stick around. So Mike, a couple of years ago, asked me if I thought it was a good idea to have some sort of paddling museum and who should we involve to make it happen. And my first thought was Magnolia Keller, who has been involved ever since. And Carrie has been one of the linchpins of the whole process and still is. We have a steering committee. A number of folks who are here have been part of that steering committee. And exactly 2 years ago, we dedicated the Southern Appalachian Paddlesports, you'll have to forgive me, I occasionally get choked up on stuff like this. We dedicated the museum to Payson and Aurelia Kennedy. Payson is here, and we'd like to say welcome. We are very fortunate to actually have a space for the SAPM at Black Dome Mountain Sports on Tuttle Road. And this is another Shameless Commerce Division plug for Black Dome Mountain Sports. They have been incredibly generous in their time and energy and willingness to work with us. They have donated a space for this museum. And the Ken Ford, who's an expert on museums, says it's a pretty cool little museum. It is in Black Dome. We encourage you all to go take a look at it physically, and then go, if not there, to paddlingmuseum.org, where all about the museum is online, including a bunch of cool stuff. One of the best features, in my view, are the interviews, mostly done by Mark Hunt and Mike, of really important people in the history of paddle sports around the Southeast mostly. So that stuff is online. The interviews that Mark has done and that Mike has done with some key players in the paddle sports world are really fun to watch. Really good history. Mark, I'm going to ask you to introduce Lisa. We have a new connection that we want you all to meet and learn about right here.
So, who loves the French Broad River? Raise your hand, please. RiverLink is the organization that originally envisioned and spearheaded for many years the redevelopment of Asheville's riverfront, and now that extends upstream and downstream beyond Asheville and Buncombe County. It's an exciting project in Woodfin that some of you may have had me bug you about a couple of days. RiverLink is deeply involved in that. At any rate, Lisa Raleigh, the new executive director. Lisa was over that way a few minutes ago. There you are, Lisa. Hey folks, if you're interested in what goes on the French Broad, introduce yourself to Lisa. She'll be here for a while. Thank you, John.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. Good luck. This is a target-rich environment for you in RiverLink right here. I also want to say thank you to the folks at the Wedge who have helped us put this thing together. I believe I've got these names right. Tim Schaller is the owner, Lucius Wilson, Haley Eckhart, Jay, and our bartender, Davina. Everybody give Davina a hand. So the program hopefully will be snappy and won't drag out. We've got basically two parts. We're literally going to introduce and induct everybody who has, or invite up to the front, everybody who is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And then we have a wonderful, what we're calling our keynote speaker, Ken Ford, is going to give us it sounds pretty ambitious, history of paddle sports worldwide in 20 minutes. This Hall of Fame process, some folks have asked us about it, and I would think organic would be probably the best way to describe it. It has developed very quickly. Mike, in his usual form, said, well, we've got this cool museum, now we should have a Hall of Fame. So all of his soldiers start working. The main one, who is the general, is Mark Hunt. Mark is here. Yeah. One of the things you know about Mark, if you've been around him long, is if you get his interest in something and he gets it in his teeth, just get out of the way, because he will make it happen. And Mark has been the force behind all of the quality and the pictures and the bios, forcing all of us on the committee to get our act together and find the information about the people who have been inducted into this thing. So Mark has done a fabulous job of putting this thing together, and we're very excited that he's done that. Thank you, Mark. So this initial class of inductees has 64 people or organizations. 4 organizations, 2 politicians, and 58 individuals. Mark is going to start us out with the introduction of the 4 organizations that he is so passionate about.
And I think others are passionate about canoe clubs, paddling clubs. I started paddling in the paddling club, started at the age of 16, and the wealth of things that paddling clubs bring to the sport is enormous. And so when we think of contributions in leadership and innovation, there are individuals here that are going to be honored, and they certainly are deserving. But collectively, a canoe club rarely has one person that led it for decades or years. Instead, it's a collective effort by many presidents and board members and volunteers, literally hundreds over the years. So we really can't be doing this without honoring paddling clubs. And honor 4 that were the earliest that we know of in the South Carolina Canoe Club. If there's anyone from Carolina Canoe Club, a member, an officer, anyone, please step forward, please come forward and join us up front. Ditto, Georgia Canoeing Association, representatives of Georgia Canoeing Association, past, present, current. Thank you so much, guys, for coming. Tennessee Scenic Rivers Association. The SRA folks, where's Albert Mitchum? I heard a rumor of Albert Mitchum. His dad helped film this thing. Come up here, Albert. And Tennessee Valley Canoe Club, I know some Chattanoogans are here. You guys come up. Rob Hirsch, you need to get a photo of these guys.
And then you need to take your mask down while you take a picture.
Yeah, quick mask down for the photo. Right here.
John Hubbard, where are you? John Hubbard! John Hubbard! Here.
Come up here.
Hey, is Rob our photo dude here? Oh, there you are.
You're good, you're good, you're good.
Tell us when it's time to smile. Oh, wait. Is Doug Wood right here?
Hey, look here.
All right, look up here. You good?
Look up there, Rob.
We're good. You're not looking. There you go. All right, we're good.
Awesome. Hey folks, I think folks noticed that Payson Kennedy came on. He's not like a photo bomber or anything. Payson was actually the very first elected president of Georgia Canoeing Association. So he was a club dude before he was an outfitter dude. Okay, there are 2 public officials that are super important to the history of paddling in this part of the country. And the first one I'm going to mention is Jimmy Carter. President Jimmy Carter, formerly many great outcomes in his legacy of leadership around wilderness and rivers. Importantly, he championed the inclusion of the Chattooga River in the Wild and Scenic Rivers program back in 1972. Mike Terry is the son of Claude Terry. Claude Terry was a dear friend with the president. President Carter has issued a statement. He's written a note to be read to us tonight. Mike, we're ready to have you.
Thank you. Jimmy's very sorry that he can't be here. A little closer, okay. This is Jimmy's email that he sent to me to read to you guys. I want to congratulate the Whitewater community on the new Hall of Fame. A number of the best days of my life were spent on rivers. I will never forget the many days I spent on the Chattooga River at a now famous tandem canoe run down Bull Sluice with Claude Terry. Yeah. I was sitting safety below, actually. All right, back to the letter. The preservation of wild rivers and the vetoes of a number of dam projects are accomplishments of my administration that will benefit future generations, and I am proud of what we did. Thank you for the honor of induction into the Hall of Fame, and congratulations to my fellow inductees.
Another public official, Lamar Alexander, was governor of Tennessee, later U.S. Senator. The people that were around Ocoee in the late 70s and early 80s know the story of how tough a fight it was with the Tennessee Valley Authority. And it was Governor Alexander's efforts on behalf of recreation that the Ocoee flows today. I mean, literally, the Chattooga might not have become wild and scenic. The Ocoee might not be flowing if not for these two folks. David Brown. Where is David Brown? David Brown is the County Executive Director of Ocoee River Council. Many of you know him. Governor and Senator Alexander has similarly written a note to us.
Mark not say anything extraneous, but he hired me for $150 a week. Head up the Ocoee. Anyway, this is from Governor and former Senator Alexander. I appreciate this honor, but it's the Whitewater enthusiasts of East Tennessee and the Southern Appalachians who deserve the credit for helping me see the value of a vibrant rafting community on the Ocoee from my first year as governor. I often say that England has its history, Italy has its art, Egypt has its pyramids, but we have the great American outdoors. With conservationists as passionate as those in this community, we will be saying the same thing for generations to come.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mark. We have 58 names to go through, and we're going to do it in about 15 minutes. So, basically the length of the slideshow that Mark put together. So, what we hope to have work is that as your name is called, if you are here, please come up. If you are a representative of that person who has been inducted, please come up. And as we just did, turn around, take your mask down so we can get a nice picture. And then please stick around, stay up here, because we're going to take a big group picture of all the folks and the representatives who are here. Does that make sense? Everybody with me there? And if you all in the back would hold the conversations down. I know you think you're speaking very quietly, but the people right next to you can hear you, and they have a hard time seeing and hearing the folks up front. So thank you for that. Are we ready? All right. Here we go. Adrian Levknecht. Is Adrian here? Take your mask down, please. All right, Andrew Holcomb is here. I know Andrew is here. The simplest four-word biography. Angus. Is Angus here? Angus! Angus! Angus Morrison. Anna is not here, I believe, but her representative is here. Aurelia is not here, but her brother Raymond Turpin is here. We are thrilled. Bill Masters. Bill Masters here. Bill didn't make it, and we don't have a rep. We will honor Bill in his absence. Bob Benner died a couple of years ago. Is David or Mrs. Benner here? I haven't seen David. All right, Bob Benner has had a lot of influence on a lot of people. Bob Selinger is here. Come on, Bob. Where are you? There he is. I know this person is here. Miss Bonnie Jones. Okay, Buzz Williams is here. Buzz? Come on. Beautiful. Thank you, Buzz. Take your mask off, please. Carrie, where's Carrie? Is she here? I know she said she was coming. I haven't seen her yet. Carrie Ashton. Oh, not here. Okay, Charlie Walbridge. You all recognize that name? I know Charlie. Chris Felius, the long distance to the left. Chris, take your mask off, buddy. Michael Terry, can you come up and stand where your dad would be if he were here? Thanks, Mike. Clay, right? Where's Clay? Clay here or something? Is Clay here? Come on, Clay. There he is. Dave Jackson, the youngest guy here. We have a representative. Daniel Delaverne. This is a story. Daniel passed away in 2006 on the Nolichucky. We're going to need at least several rows, so you guys might want to be in front of each other. David Brown is here. He's a member of the Hall of Fame. David. He's a paddler. Oh, yeah. Doug Woodward is not here. Doug is one of the founders of several organizations and one of the great leaders of kids in Atlanta for a long time. Emily Jackson, family kayaking. Wow, I love it. Beautiful. That's the best picture up there. And her dad, Eric. Where's Eric? Okay, Eric Jackson. He's running for office here. Frank Bell Sr., the founder of Camp Mondana. Heck, I'll stand for Frank Bell. What are bells are here? Frank Bell Jr. is here. Oh, I missed Fritz Ork. Is it for a second? Pause that. Fritz Ork Jr. And his son Fritz Ork, the 4th or 5th, is here. Gary and Beth Harper, founders of the Watershed Project. I know they're both here. Gary and Beth. Okay. Thanks, Gary. Okay. What have you done? Gordon Grant. I know Gordon Grant is here. Okay, Homer King. Homer King showed 3 times. No rep. Okay, Homer. Horace Holden Sr. has at least one son here. Horace Jr., where are you? Come on, Horace. Hugh Caldwell, represented by Doug Cameron, I think. Are you here, Doug? Are you coming up? There he is. Thanks, Doug. Hugh Caldwell from Canton area. Jim Griner has a bunch of Griners here. Can you guys come on up? We need Griners galore. Just Mama coming? Jeff Griner, where's Jeff? You coming? Stand with your dad. Let the ladies in. Okay, Jim Griner, founder of Whitewater, one of the earliest pioneers of the rafting business. Jim Holden is here. Joe Pulliam, I know Joe's here. He's on the committee. All right, Joe. Okay. Oh, hey, let this guy get in there. Help. That was before color photography was invented. John Grace. Is John here? John's not here. The guy who runs the Green River Race for the last 25 years. Great interview with him on the website, by the way. Juliet Castor. Cut more towards the rest of the today. And Ken Castle, I know Ken Castle. There you are. One of the great kayak instructors ever on the planet. Ken Ford. Oh my gosh. Ken Ford is here. Guys. Who else you got? Oh, Kevin Colburn. Yeah, Kevin's here. One of the great. Kevin and Mark have saved more rivers than anybody. Lecky Haller, one of the great competitors. Okay, Les Bechtel, facing the wrong way on the big river out west. Les Bechtel's one of the early pioneers at the NOC. He wrote a book with Slim Ray. Whitewater Rescue. And here we have Mark Hunt on the sunburst raft on that cover. Founded the first rafting company on the Dakota. Mark Lyle worked for him. One of the early pioneers of quick boating. Mark Singleton also saved a bunch of rivers out there. Come on. Mark Singleton, the guy along with Kevin saving all these rivers. Pat Keller. Mama, you going to stand up here? Is Pat here? All right, Pat Keller. Welcome. Glad to see you. Payson Kennedy. Come on up, Payson. Payson Kennedy might be the godfather of most of the people in this room, along with Frank Bell Sr. and Jim Griner and Claude Terry. I shouldn't have started that. So that's a long list. Okay. Philip Curry, founder of Astro and Artist Designs. He was going to try to make it, but I haven't seen him yet. Ramon Eaton, represented by Eve. I hope Eve and Liza. You guys going to come? Yeah. Come on, Eve and Liza. Riley Williams, one of the early successful paddlers, one of the first African American paddlers of note. Always good to be here. Glad to see you guys. Sam Folks, one of the most active instructors in ACA history. Sam, thanks for coming out. Scott Shipley is not here. I'm actually going to see Scott tomorrow. He's in Colorado. He wishes he could be here. Scott Strasbaugh, Olympic gold medalist with Kobe. Worked in NSC for a long time. Shane Benedict. All right. Another godfather. Godfather is here. Slim Ray is here. One of the early glad you're here, Slim. Steve Scarborough. There's a child in all of this, and the child here has a wife. There is it. Tommy Hilke. Tommy got a rep here, or is Tommy here? He's in Colorado. All right. He's one of the great starting paddlers of all time. Won the Green Race a bunch. Vladimir Baumhauer. One of the designer kit. One of the pioneers. Wayne Dickert. Okay. Will Leverett is here. Come on, Will. William Healy. Represented by Bob Salinger and all of us who love this stuff. Woody Calloway. That's it. Can we have the short people move to the front for the photographs? Let's get a stack here. Okay, let's go on the balcony, guys. All of you up here. Is the lighting okay? All right, everybody, look at the balcony. Make sure you can see all the cameras. All right. Everybody look up This is the initial class of the Southern Appalachian Paddlesports Hall of Fame. All right, guys. Thank you. Take a seat. Okay, folks, we're just getting started. All right, we're ready for the second part of the program. This won't take long. All right, folks, please. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. Okay. We have 1 minute till our next program starts. With the program, please take a seat or take a stand. We have the second part of the program, and we promise it will be snappy. I would tell Payson to sit down, but he can't hear me anyway. We're going to have plenty of time after the rest of this program is over. All right, we're ready to go. The second part of our program, history of whitewater paddling in worldwide in 20 minutes. Okay, can I have your attention in front of the room, please? There will be plenty of time at the end for talking and cooking. Okay, if you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times and stop talking. Okay, that didn't work. All right, here we go. Ken Ford has the floor. Ken Ford, historian and movie maker. Here we go.
I'm not don't need as much of a microphone as John Burton. Let's give it up for John Burton and Mark Hunt. Good show, thanks guys. And this is I've got a little 25-minute presentation that's based roughly on the history of whitewater boating. It's all roughly pulled from a DVD again, The Call of the River. And anyone who wants a copy of that, if you're old enough to still have a DVD player, I'd love to give you a copy. This history that I'm going to cover is mainly history before our time, generally speaking. So I'm not going to really get into the 90s or the 2000s. We're going to hit some of the early history, and there's some awesome boating that went on in those days. I start. I imagine a bunch of you have seen these. The Chautauqua River recently uncovered some canoes of Native American origin. How cool is that? That they're boats carbon dated to the 1700s on the Chautauqua River that's just been uncovered. That's awesome. But clearly the Native Americans had the sport of rivers before us. But it wasn't long until it turned into real recreation. Check this out. You check out the Model T, tying boats on the car. I thought I knew how to tie boats on the car. That's awesome. And you see the windlass there? Like, you know, you crank the ropes tight with the windlass. Pretty awesome.
This newer, lighter canoe was often a young man's first major purchase, just as the automobile would be to the next generation. The on-beer exercise had provided a handy method for courting the opposite sex.
And so, of course, canoeists are the best romantics, right? So, if you don't believe that, then check this out. This is from the Canadian Canoeing Museum. This is a canoe with a record player in it, you know, to set the mood. And the other end of this boat has a bar in it to further set the mood. So, canoeists do it, right? Okay, you know, we've seen some Native American boats turn into recreation, but soon competition was on the fringe. And here's a little view at what happened in the country, where people would go to these gather for canoe events, and sometimes with a kayak paddle. And pretty soon competition evolved, and amazing skills out of competition, which you'll see.
The elegance of the canoe, its smooth, quiet movement through the water, appealed to thousands of recreational boaters. Regattas flourished. Techniques were developed and refined. Techniques that would prove useful downstream. Reg Bloomfield, a Canadian canoe racing champion, had developed remarkable skills that attracted an eager audience. He made the paddle, rather than the parasol, the symbol of canoeing's elegance. Some tricks have no practical application. The balance instructor at Red Building and others master our river runs, providing a solid foundation for the more exotic demands of river paddle. Though he would take wooden canvas canoes down a winding, rapid river purely for fun, another wild idea seemed to be cropping up all over. Other pioneers would make the leap from calm lake to rapid river.
Pretty awesome, huh? 1934. So by 1950, canoes are still dominant in the U.S. So much so that a canoe trip down the Potomac River or the Susquehanna River would be cover of National Geographic magazine, just to float down those sections of river. And it makes me think, you know, we've all got a little bit more exploring we have to do to get source to sea on a lot of these awesome rivers. But check this out, this 1950s National Geographic. But soon thereafter, there was an entire crop of new people introduced to canoeing. And yeah, they were from the summer camps. And these summer camps introduced kids to the wilderness and all these wilderness rivers. You know, by the boatload and trailer load, it's awesome. And very impressively, a lot of summer camps that really did the cutting edge paddling were women's camps, girls camps, and they did awesome boating, like first descents of the Chattooga at Section 3. And check this out, no life jackets, maybe a towel for the knee pads, just super good. And they'd have to develop really good skills because these are wooden canvas canoes. You own a camp, you got to take good care of the boat. So you have lots of training that goes into training paddlers to do things like the dock landing, so they can paddle really hard at the dock and then pull in, but not crash up the canoe. Again, there's Section 3. But those summer camp paddlers, as they left summer camp and became adults, a lot of them, maybe a lot of you, stayed in the sport. And one example of that is this guy who's a club paddler in Virginia named Randy Carter. And Randy Carter had some of the very first guidebooks. And this is a crazy story because this is pre-internet, before American Whitewater, before you could get gauge levels, water levels, and just anywhere. And so what they would do is they would paint a gauge on the side of bridge pilings, and the bridge piling became the gauge. Then you call a restaurant near the river, like you could call in all over West Virginia, all these restaurants. Hey, go around and check that gauge and we'll eat dinner at your restaurant afterwards. And that's just the way it worked. But you think that's crazy. The next phase was even crazier, and this is in the guidebooks. You would call someone, have them go check the gauge, and this is kind of like backwoods West Virginia or whatever, and they'd go check the gauge, and you'd pay them by mailing them stamps. And that was Venmo of the day. You'd mail stamps as a thank you. So through the 50s, early 60s, well, I forgot to mention, one of the reasons I'm doing really early history is so that not many of you can catch me on the facts. So. But that early era, roughly in the 50s or so, and early 60s, is just starting to get a few conflicts. It was sort of 50-50 canoes and kayaks. And we're going to see a little bit of that transition next. This is the new river.
Many parents are unaware of the new trend of decking the boat.
Tom Hewitt, Jeremy's old brother, showed up at Long Island with a closed boat that had spray screens, and it had straps in it so you could roll it.
The ability to roll offered a new degree of freedom and control, and the versatile manufacturing of a variety of new boat designs, including
Actually there watching the metamorphosis between those 17-foot open runs and the little sleek decked boats today that look just like that. If you look at that progression, there's still the canoes all along, and they're still out with the canoe paddle, and you're still kneeling in the boat.
These new canoes, known as C1s, were added to the mix of boats seen on the river. The kayaks, with their double boats, were increasingly popular. The sport was at a confluence, and not everyone followed the same course.
You know that you're out there in the canoe one day, you're going to see a kayak, and you're like, wow, that looks like continue, we'd already started paddling canoes before that kayak thing was awfully good. I can still remember the first day I saw it. There he is! Oh man, that's where the future is.
The introduction of these sleek designs in the early 60s represented a new trend to American canoeists. But in Europe, recreational kayaking had been well established for over 20 years. Let's roll back through the years, all the way back to 1932, when a British expedition to Greenland captured this footage of the locals demonstrating their expertise. Hunting kayaks, sealskin over a driftwood or bone frame had for thousands of years been essential to the survival of subarctic coastal populations. Hunting by harpoon from a kayak in these icy waters can be a tricky business. Advanced skills and the ability to right the kayak after being overturned were developed through necessity. The British returned home enthusiastic to reproduce the boats and the techniques they had witnessed in Europe. Folding kayaks were manufactured from wood. The skills were not always easy to do. The historic origins of boats were faithfully retained. Here we see a roll of half a paddle representing a throw stick, although most Europeans had little use for a harpoon, nor did they need to know how to roll with a seal on the deck. Difficult and esoteric rowing techniques demonstrated here are only kept alive by 4 dozen led by a continued thirst for knowledge and control of the boat, paddlers took the skills of different
I bet we could have some wagers to see if someone could do that. You want to see that roll again? Okay, holding the paddle under the boat. Oh no, I'll throw down $50 to anyone who shows me a video of them doing this in the next week. 1932. Awesome, huh? Okay, so the Brits learned from the native cultures, the Greenland kayakers, brought it into Greenland and adopted those skills. And then a lot of kayaking sort of trickled across Europe. A lot of those Europeans ended up coming to the U.S. And kayaking, the first rounds of kayaking were Europeans coming to the U.S. This again, sort of the 50s mainly. So like in New York, they have this full boat train, leave New York City, go up the Housatonic River. They'd be assembling the boats in the car of the train. The train would stop, like in Falls Village, Connecticut, and paddlers would get out, put together the boats, carry them down the river, and float the river, and get a train shoveled back. Pretty awesome. So that was one set of European influence, but the next set of European influence was through competition. Sorry.
Meanwhile, the thrill of downriver racing had spread to several locations in the United States. In the 1950s, the biggest events by far was held in Colorado. European racers were invited to attend. The people of the sleepy town of Salida, Colorado knew they had a unique resource in the Arkansas River. The 25-mile stretch on the edge of town was perfect for a demanding downriver race. City leaders were keen on the value of importing European paddlers to generate interest and sell real estate in this western town. Their strategy worked. People came in droves to see the events. The local town provided enthusiastic support to local sport, meals for thousands of spectators, and a train to transport them, all to support world-class Whitewater.
1951, and they say next year we go to America. And I said, good.
The Arkansas River Race became an attractive spectacle, complete with parade and international paddlers.
The TV people came from Denver. It was a big show. It was a big show. A big theater.
They pay those guys $300 to come from Europe.
Everybody was even the country. And the best race because it wasn't a big move. So he said, oh, that's really my fault. The governor was there. And they had 2,800 something. That people here, that crazy. They just all over.
Kings. The first boat is in position, and there's the flag. A fair penalty for the race. And he's out of the way.
Speed wasn't at that point. If you hit a rock,
Here, Bob Ehrman, the top American contender in the early 50s, starts the
and he had swing feeds because when you free, they go in the middle.
And here comes Roger Perry, 15th to start today. After elapsed time for careful check, Perry was declared the winner, beating out Seidel by only 2 minutes 14 seconds.
It got popular in Europe. Everybody wanted to go there and have a chance to go to Salada and participate in the fun.
So these competitions had a lot of side effects. In Colorado and in the West, a lot of those folks who'd come over for the 1950s, 51, 52 Salida Fibart races stayed, like basically immigrated to the U.S., started high school programs, and taught a lot of paddlers the sport in the West. But then there were a lot of other folks who got involved in the sport through another group activity. Remember the summer camps? Well, this is an Explorers Scout group, and it's pretty amazing. In this scout group, there were the first raft companies in the Southeast grew out of this. Playboating, some leaders in playboating grew out of this. Demery, inflatable boats, big influence from this this group. And of course, they made all their own boats. So you had to wax the mold and then put in the mold release agent. You hope you remember that. Lay down the fiberglass. Get all nasty during your layup. Super nasty. And then seeing the boat and hope the phone didn't ring. If the phone rings at this phase, you would hope. But this was a problem because these boats were fragile. And this was pretty tough. I mean, they'd break in half all the time. I mean, canoes, the same, the fiberglass canoes just could not take it. Have to paddle them out like that. So we needed another step, another material in the sport.
Along came Kevlar, a military fabric used in bulletproof vests and radial tires.
The flexible fabrics made a huge difference in the life of the boats.
Kevlar started to be used, and it wasn't quite as crucial to avoid every rock.
It was built as an indestructible material. And so that alone gave us more courage to explore the limits of what we could do. The neat thing was there were so many things new and changing that you felt like you could try new things that you never tried before.
Hard to imagine now. We thought it was a big deal with 3 or 4 foot legs. We were going to quite a challenge.
Do that.
Talked about how one would run waterfall.
We started running disappointed down.
Just paddle down, ready down, let's go and show them what we got. We all just shocked. And then we all had to carry back up and run ourselves.
And once one person did it, people realize, wow, I think anybody can do this. These are the writers would not publish accounts in the club newsletters because they felt it was an attractive nuisance. They didn't want to come up with color paddle.
Seeing a picture of Martin Begun paddling over Potter's Falls, people were saying it was dangerous and reckless. And
that shouldn't be done. So of course it got a lot of interest.
That's nuts. That's going to kill kayaking. I think some of us are pretty intrigued about it. Oh my God, can we get there?
Yeah, so you get a little hint of what's coming there. But happily along the way, boaters of that day in the 70s were extraordinarily good at getting people out on the river who were in high places. Senators, governors, so on. This is Senator Robert Kennedy on the Hudson River. Then you've, of course, seen Jimmy Carter. Here's Jimmy Carter in a kayak on the Chautauqua. Pretty awesome. Here's Stuart Udall. Let's see, Secretary of Interior, responsible for the Wilderness Act, the Endangered Species Act, 4 national parks, 6 national monuments. And some big chunk of that, yeah, that's right, some big chunk of that because paddlers got him out on the water to see all these special places. But one of the best river advocates was a paddler himself. Some of you might guess who this would be. Well, Blackadar, that's right. Blackadar was a small-town doctor from Salmon, Idaho, and he made a mark on the sport through his exploits, which got massive publicity. He was one of the first guys to get TV coverage, and it seems like every year he'd have another show Saturday afternoons on television of one of his crazy kayaking exploits. He had 2 big articles in Sports Illustrated, and so he was just a publicity magnet and really attracted a lot of folks to the thought of taking care of rivers. But Blackadar took care of rivers himself in a big way. He sketched out and advocated for a 2 million acre wilderness proposal for the Middle Fork of the Salmon, and then the 1980 wilderness area, the Frank Church Wilderness, was signed into law by Jimmy Carter, and that 2 million acres roughly matched the maps that Blackadar had drawn out. So pretty awesome what one paddler can do stepping up. Really a great example of that. So next sort of thing that was a crescendo for the sport was the Olympics, 1972. And Angus, you were there. John Burton, you were there. Pretty awesome. This thing, 25,000–30,000 people. Major publicity in the U.S. Jamie McEwen right here. And this was back in the day of 3 networks, so pretty much everybody watched the Olympics coverage. And Whitewater got a lot of playtime that year. Louise Colton. Now this Germans. Yeah, let's hear it for Olympians. So the next mega influence on whitewater sport, and this is all sort of getting the sport like in the public eye and about to take off. The next mega influence was out of our own backwoods, and this was a cultural event that you might say that put Whitewater on the radar screen of many Americans.
The impact of the publicity was quickly felt, inspiring recreational boaters across the U.S. But the Olympics were far away on a strange concrete race site. A new inspiration for hitting the river came from one of our own backwoods. It was a fictional river that captured the public imagination.
I've paddled the set of the river when they were filming in Montana. There was a big scaffolding on the river in St. And we were like, what's going on?
9 years to and eventually decided they didn't need some more experts. Working on the movie. We got paid enough to get the you couldn't get me away. We had bird rounds coming line between us. And they used us. Well, over the course of the
moviegoers were impressed as well. Deliverance became one of the decade's most popular films and remains a classic. The movie delivered an inspired audience to the banks of the nation's rivers.
People that had never even thought of getting on a river suddenly saw that there was adventure there. It was real. It was like a cool thing.
So we've had this trifecta of Blackadar, the Olympics, Deliverance, all giving lots of publicity to the sport. But the boats still were fragile. Even with Kevlar, they just weren't holding up to river time. And so we needed another solution.
As the success of the new Kevlar boat showed, gear did make a difference. And there was another new material on the scene, one of many innovations that could be traced back to a pioneer in California.
I had time working for a department. I'd have every other day off, working to spend time playing with my projects, somebody else's projects.
You have to view Tom Johnson in the context of everybody else in the world. I mean, he really was a step above in terms of energy, confidence, and integration in the sport. He's one of the first people who's totally embedded in the sport, totally driving the sport.
Johnson is credited with many innovations. Whitewater parks, and early designs for fiberglass paddles, neoprene bogies, and spray skirts. He was well versed in the performance of various materials.
When I went by the factory, and I said, remember what you told me? And sure enough, well, this is it.
Borrowing from technology used in the production of trash cans, polyform kayaks produced a Tom Johnson design.
Modern technology is revolutionary boat construction.
These new boats started as polyethylene pellets. Poured into a mold and baked in industrial ovens, they became durable, low-maintenance boats.
This is part of their commercial.
We've seen the ads for all the shot away from it for quite a while.
We thought it was stupid. We did not like it.
Don't worry about it. I'm not used to it. We'll have fun.
But within 10 years, most river runners would choose Ravenna boats.
Yeah, awesome. I'm curious, how many of you all paddled fiberglass boats to begin with? Oh, look at that. Yeah! Look at that. Yeah. And okay, now let's see, how many of you built your own boats? Oh, check that out. Someone take a picture of this. This is a great collection of number of people who built their own boats. Okay, I've got a little more survey going here. How many raise your hand for paddling was influenced by summer camps? Okay, good crowd. Good crowd. One more survey here. How about paddling clubs? Your early paddling was influenced by clubs. Nice. All these parts put together the sport. Okay, I'm super curious. This is off topic, I guess you'd say, but I have this hypothesis, but it might be just my background. How many of you feel like there were people when you started the sport who were scientist, engineering, tinkerer mindset? Raise your hand. Oh, awesome, yeah. Yeah, so like, that's what made you build your own boat. And you know, some of the people that I had involved as sort of mentors or involved in the sport is when I was getting going in the early 70s, late 60s, literally communications for the Apollo program, literally stumbling on confirmation of dark matter, literally doing the first networking of computers, and scientists like chemists and chemistry professors, research chemists at Penn State University, some of those folks. So that was an interesting survey. I'm glad to hear that that's the case for a lot of you. Who knows who this might be? Yeah, this is Jesse Whittemore on a boat called the Millennium Falcon. And the birth of playboating, you might say. And let's see. Jesse's books and developed sport boating, and playboats sort of followed suit. You might know who this is, but is it Mark? It's a secret. I won't tell. Right? And lots of play parts for freestyle competitions. Now we're moving sort of fast as I wrap up here in the last couple minutes. This is the promotional effect of having 10 companies out there really competing to get more and more kayakers on the water. And so big festivals, big participation. Lots of cutting edge work done in all aspects of the sport, even inventing SUP before we even had a name for it, just now.
Just hear this energy and this buzz.
I think it became a lot easier when the structure got together and clubs all over the country. I think marketing. It turned into quite a scene. They were paying quite a bit of attention to their wardrobe. Stimulus for me was starting to play. Nobody stopped. Double trouble the whole day. Aren't you riding the river anymore?
No longer did they always run the river. Instead, the river often became a one-stop destination, a playground. Park and play, we call it. Rodeo boaters borrowed design elements, like the thin, playful ends of squirt and slalom boats. It became the cultural theater. Rodeo became freestyle, and freestyle boomed as it was caught up in the growing popularity of extreme sports.
And then by the 90s, there were massive freestyles. There would be so many people,
The Rodeo World Championships in 1993 on the Ocoee River helped galvanize a period of rapid change. Many towns developed play parks, and local competitions thrust paddle sport into the limelight.
It got more of an extreme persona, and the sport got a little bit younger. It was exciting because the sport was changing so fast that we thought, okay, this could be like certain areas. People like touring and doing these moves, names that came from skateboarding, like blunts, aerial blunts, and things like that.
The exposure brought by video and live competitions, combined with the convenience and safety of park and play, won many new converts to the river experience.
So, final little segment here. You know, all that play boating's taken off. There are a lot of whitewater parks everywhere. The sport's getting pushed from every avenue. And yet, at the same time, I think the heart and soul of the sport is the magic of flowing water. Anyone agree with me on that? The magic of flowing water is really what whitewater sport is all about. No matter what your craft, no matter what your, where you live, and how you partake, and I think that's going to be true in this next little segment as well.
Comfort developed by playing the features of Whitewater led many to push their limits on big water. But the lower new freestyle boats are not well adapted to steep technical landscape. Designs evolved. Competition encouraged a new level of precision, fueling more adventure on the fringes. Creek boating became its own specialty, and remarkable skills meant the creeks being run became sport.
I'll narrate them. Good water.
Source. You're gonna press the right button. Get the TV remote.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. I don't want to leave on technology, but let's leave on the magic of flowing water, okay? If anyone's interested in getting one of these DVDs, I'd love to hand you out a couple free ones. They are also very good, AJ. And that film on that project's available for free streaming and downloads on Ken Ford. If you Google Ken Ford, and let's see what else was I going to tell you. A couple more. free streaming on performancevideo.com if you just Google the call of the river. And if anyone gets to Durango, Colorado, look me up in Durango, Colorado. Thanks for having me. Let's give a big round of applause. Thank you, Clint. Appreciate it. Mike Fischessa, will you come down here, please? Yeah, I know, you won't do it. Come on down, please. Mike Fischessa. Folks, one last little thing, then you can mix and talk and have a beer. The founder of the SAPM is always trying to find gifts for other people. We don't know this, but we've decided that the gift we were planning to give to somebody else, we just decided nobody else has earned it more than Mike. So this is a paddle handmade by our own Fritz Orr. And we want to give to Mike to say thank you for the paddling museum. Thank you all. The brewery stays open until 10 o'clock. Please stick around.